Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. It's Matt Cook, and I'm here with Jonathan Green. I am, if you don't already know, a very well known health researcher, sex researcher. I have over 700,000 subscribers to my newsletter. I helped everybody from congressmen to rabbis to ordinary people, tens of thousands of people. And I've got the wonderful Jonathan Green. He was one of the most famous dating coaches in the world before he retired to a tropical island, a remote island in the world. And here we are giving terrible advice and hopefully being somewhat entertaining. How are you doing, Jonathan?
I'm doing really good. We've got some really interesting questions that came in this week, and hopefully we can help a few people and entertain a lot more.
Well, here's the thing. Like this woman, she's writing that her husband, they've been married 12 years. They have two daughters.
Okay.
And the oldest is 11, and the husband's saying, "Hey, girl, it's time for you to start shaving yourself." Now, the wife is freaked out about this. She goes, "I don't know why I care so much, but it really pisses me off that he told my daughter she should be shaving herself because she's
What does he
11.
mean?
She's perfect the
Sorry,
way she is. She
like our
doesn't need that."
armpits?
Well, I think he means pits and legs, I would think, I mean, I would
So,
think.
so there's a huge difference if he means, you know what I
Well,
mean?
I'm going to assume he
If
means that and not
okay, because I was
the lady
horrified.
bits.
So,
Well, see, our
I
minds are so dirty. We go right to the
no,
dirtiest thing. Um,
it's not that. It's that we get a lot of questions that come in that are horrifying. So,
so she
I
says, "I don't know
think
why, like, we should be planting insecurity in her mind. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her. She's perfect the way she is. And I don't know why it pisses me off so much. It does. It really is a big deal for me," she says. So why is it a big deal for her? And is this
I,
father wrong?
I think that my opinion is that the mom teaches the daughter how to be a woman.
Yeah, I
I feel like
agree.
this falls into the realm of the same stuff. Like, you don't expect the dad to take the daughter shopping for her menstruation stuff. It's just, it's
Yeah.
you because you can't. I don't think I could. I've been shaving for a long time. I don't think I could successfully shave a leg.
Well,
Do you know what I
you
mean?
know,
It's so different. I don't know. And so it's like, why would I start a conversation I can't finish? And I don't really think, I don't know. Because my daughter's the same age, and I wouldn't have that conversation with her. I don't think it's any of my business.
okay, here's the thing. Okay, let's take some scenarios. So one scenario would be like, for example, a single parent. If it's the father raising the daughters, I can
Then it's
understand
fine.
that because he's got to,
Absolutely.
do whatever he has to do. And I don't see anything wrong with that, by the way. But I think he should have talked to his wife about it. And if she was against it or whatever, she should have been the one to bring it up or not bring it up.
Do you
Um,
think she's upset because he brought it up at all, or because it's like her territory?
well, she is
That's
upset because she doesn't feel that her daughter should be pressured by
yeah.
outside people to do something like this for a social convention or conditioning where she doesn't really need to. And the truth is, this is very cultural. We've all been in many countries where women don't shave their armpits, for example, or at least I have. That's a custom. There's nothing right or wrong about it either. Or legs, there's nothing right or wrong about that. Of course, now we're in a world where everybody is shaving their genitals area. Um,
Yeah.
that's what you
So
thought he meant. Could
yeah,
have.
and that's horrible. So let me tell you something happened to me when I went away to camp when I was in fifth or sixth grade, some age, maybe 10, maybe 11. We went away to camp, and one of the counselors was like a high school, goes, "You know what? You guys all smell bad. You have to learn to wear deodorant now." And they held us down and they sprayed us with like whatever deodorant they used. And I had a major allergic reaction. So my feeling is that it was just like they would never do it now, right? This is 30 years ago. Now people know, so crazy, but it was a really bad experience for me because I was like, no one had ever
Yeah.
said to me, and that was a really bad experience about
Yeah.
it. And it was the wrong way to approach it. So if you
It's
do
not their
something the wrong
business,
way,
really. I mean,
you can,
it's not their
yeah,
business.
it's just a form of bullying, I guess. But when you
Yeah.
do it like this, you could create, I think you can get the opposite effect, right? Where you give the kid such a bad experience and she goes, well, I don't like the way you said it, so I'm never doing it. I had the opposite of experience with my uncle. My uncle was the toughest man I've ever met. He was so tough. He was poor because he was worked on a loading dock. It was in the union. He was one of those guys who was all the union stories you see in those movies. He was in those. Like, he had seen stuff you shouldn't see and all of those things. Like, And he used to go into dockside bars and he would go, I'll arm wrestle everyone. If I beat every single guy in the bar, I get one free drink. Okay. And he would get free drink all the time,
Wow.
even into his 70s. Like, that's a lot of, you got to beat 50 people. You have to be just as strong for the last guy as the first guy. And he, like, you have to be so tough. And he used to say to me, listen, you shave your armpits in the summer because the reason you smell bad is not the first sweat, it's the second sweat. He goes, I'm a dock worker. He goes, I do it. And I was like, well, this tough guy's doing it. So I shave my armpits because I live in the tropics and it makes a huge difference. And as far as the smell, it really makes a difference for me. So I don't, I like had a really different perspective because of that. So those are my two experiences where someone showed me one way and the other way at the other end of the spectrum. And I think that this is your children entering puberty is a very complicated time. I think you should have conversations with your wife and be of one mind. I think that this is part of this is endemic of a problem where we don't talk to our partners very much. We don't talk to our wives. Like, what's your philosophy on makeup? What age, like,
Hmm.
what age should your kids be allowed to get their ears pierced? The number of couples who don't talk about that and then one comes home with the kid's ear pierced and the other parent's upset. I bet it happens a lot
Okay,
because
here's a story. I
okay.
never cared what my daughter wore or makeup. I never got involved in that. Maybe because I'm the father, but it never bothered me, and I didn't feel like it was a big deal. But my wife, she would sometimes say, "Young lady, you go back and change. That's too revealing," or whatever. I never felt it was my business, and I didn't care. So I feel that it's a little bit a very, very bad thing for him to be talking to his daughter and making her feel insecure without, like you said, talking to his wife, the mother first, and
Yeah.
then deferring to whatever she thinks. Um, yeah, and I think you could see it reversed with boys, different things, I suppose. Did your father ever have the condom discussion with you?
No, he never had that discussion with me.
Hmm.
We've had other talks and
Yeah.
people really don't do the birds and the bees talk anymore. Like my
Well,
parents did talk
school
to me about
takes
it, but
care of it. Oh, well, I learned that in school. We don't have to do that anymore.
yeah,
That's what I
school does
thought.
it so poorly.
Yeah.
And that I definitely think that I mean, at least the dad is trying to be involved. Like it's not all bad. At least like he cares enough to try and be involved in his
Hmm.
kids and he's paying attention. It's better to try and fail, I think. At least he cares enough to be involved. Obviously, he did this in a poor way, but at least like he's trying. So that counts for something. It's obviously the wrong way to do it, but I mean, isn't that better than a dad who's not paying attention to the kids
I
at all,
do,
I
and I
guess?
think that the wife is extremely reactive. She says she doesn't know why it's such a big deal, but it is, which indicates that it's some kind of a throwback to something in her childhood or something that happened to her, that some insecurity that she had that, and so she feels super affected by this. So yet another reason to discuss things like this with your
Yeah.
spouse about child raising practices before you bring it up to your children. You sh-
Yeah. I
Um,
think that's just a reminder that you're called partners for a reason. I've got one that's interesting.
okay.
It's a little different direction. So I've been married for 2 years. I found out that while we were dating, but before we were intimate, she was hooking up with her friend for 6 months. She said it was to make sure I was serious. Now I'm stuck on a group vacation with him. What do I do? Like, it's such,
What's the big deal? I don't understand the problem really.
I think
So
being
okay,
stuck on a
so this guy,
vacation really escalates it.
okay, so his now wife, I guess, are they married? Whatever. She slept with this guy for 6 months before they were intimate. That's a long time not to be intimate, by the way. That didn't make any sense to me in that story. You mean they're together for 6 months before they were intimate physically? Is
At
that what he?
least.
That's horrible. Maybe religious reasons, I suppose. But if that's the case, then his at that time girlfriend certainly didn't have any religious objections to sleeping with this other guy. Um,
Well, she said
uh,
it to him. He missed it.
yeah.
She gave him the
Okay.
warning sign. He missed it.
Okay.
She said
Okay.
that at the beginning of the relationship, they spent time building a friendship first and then see. So that's why there was a period of no intimacy because like a
Okay.
slower burn because
Things
they were
happen.
late. They're both later in their 20s. So they decided to try that. We've all tried that. It never
Sure.
works, but
No.
for them it did. They're the rare exception. But she said, during that period, I understand if you want to date around during that time, I don't expect you to be exclusive until we agree we're exclusive.
Look,
This is,
I've got people that I know, several friends of mine Like one lives across the street from his ex-wife, who is now married. One of them he and his girlfriend go on cruises with his ex-wife and her current boyfriend. Another one, I mean, I know at least three couples that are quite close,
You live
and
in
there's
such a
no
different
problem
world
with
to
it.
me. You
No
live in
problem with
such
it.
a
Well,
so you live in a cul-de-sac where everyone goes on vacations with their exes.
yeah, these are different people in different situations. But so what's the big deal? So the guy slept with her. So what? Who cares? I mean, I think he's completely.
Oh, I think he found out on the vacation.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like
seems fair
the
to me. Fair game because they didn't have any kind of exclusivity. In
no,
fact,
she
they had an
this is the
agreement that it was
lesson here.
fine. Yeah.
The lesson here, and he responded when she said that, he goes, "Oh, I don't want to fight a war on two fronts. I only focus on one person at a time." Now she said, and he didn't hear it. Here's what happens when someone says to you, "You're allowed to date other people." What they're actually saying is, "I'm dating other people." So this is a good lesson to listen to what people say, because she didn't do anything wrong, but he goes, "Up until last night, I thought she felt the same. She never mentioned seeing other people
Hey,
while we
and
were
by the
dating."
way, it's much easier for women to hook up with guys than it is for guys to hook up with women in general. So don't be surprised.
Yeah, he just didn't hear it. He goes, "Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to see other people." It's the same thing where you say you're on a break and then the other person acts like they're on a break. Now, I've actually never been on a break. I don't
Mm-mm.
understand that
I don't
idea
either.
at all.
I don't either,
I'm
but
either
I
with
know
someone
people.
or not.
Right.
It's like, let's be, it's also, I don't know how, sometimes people downgrade. They go like, let's go from engaged back to girlfriend and then we'll get engaged again later. What?
Doesn't work.
I can't understand. Yeah. Or like, let's go back to just friends with benefits from boyfriend, girlfriend, and then maybe we'll jump back up again.
You know
I don't
what? I
really know
just
how to
think you
go
got to move on from this.
backwards.
He could be good friends with this person. It doesn't matter. So what? They can compare. They don't have to talk about it, and that's it. It's no big deal. I can't imagine any problem with this at all. Because
Oh,
sometimes you can feel awkward. Sometimes you can feel weird, and that's perfectly okay and normal. There's nothing to be done about it. Doesn't mean anybody's wrong or anybody did anything wrong. So he's feeling uncomfortable. Oh well, that's the way I feel. So what?
yeah, but at the same time, you can also say, if you don't feel comfortable with her being friends with this guy, you can say, listen, we need to set some boundaries, whatever they are. He was upset. He came upstairs and the wife was wearing only a towel and talking to the guy in their room. So
That's a little
that's
inappropriate, actually.
right. That's what I mean. So this keeps going back and forth.
It's a
As you
little
read more of the
inappropriate.
story, it goes
There's
back and
probably
forth.
more
But
to it. I'll just say that I don't have any problem, by the way, with somebody being friends with someone that they have been intimate with and they're not anymore. We've talked about how men can't be friends with women usually, but I actually think that if they used to be an item and they're no longer an item and they each have their own romantic interest now, they could actually be friends in some
see, I
cases.
feel the opposite. I think
Hmm.
it's so easy to slip back into it with an ex because it doesn't feel like it's such like, oh, we've already done it before, so it's not like a big deal.
Yeah. Well, on the other
That's
hand,
I
you've
think
gotten the sexual tension over with. You've done all that. It's past, and you can move
yeah,
on. So in a sense, so anyway, 2 points of view, I suppose. So
yeah,
here's a
the main
question for you though about this.
yeah.
What do you think about? She says her boyfriend will like be scrolling past pictures on Instagram or Facebook, and he'll look at these pretty girls for like she says 10 seconds, which is quite a long time to look at a picture. She says he searches girls up on Instagram. He's not a cheater type, but I'm just wondering if guys do this. Is it okay for the boyfriend to be looking at pictures of women online? Or am I overreacting? Please give me some advice.
Instagram is a dating app. It
I
just
mean,
is. Here's the difference. Every single person you look at, you can click one button and message them. That's a dating app. That's not a look at only app, right? It's a look, but you can also touch app. So there's an element of danger to it. It doesn't mean this guy's guilty. It means she needs to be aware in the same way that if you're in a monogamous relationship, I don't think your girlfriend should have an Instagram account. Okay. Because all it does is open the door to men to look at pictures of her in a bikini, whatever, and message her. That's what people use the app for. It's the same reason, like, if you get in a relationship, you should close your Tinder account.
yeah, I
I
agree with
believe
that. I agree with that.
it's
Also, I think there's a difference between looking at pictures of women in person who happen to be passing by, which is normal, and we can't really stop ourselves from doing that. I try to avoid ogling a woman, I don't want to hurt my wife's feelings. But we live on the beach, and there's a lot of very, very pretty girls My wife knows I like to look at pretty girls. Any guy does. It's fine. You know, it's not a big deal. But seeking out pictures of beautiful women on Instagram, I don't know, seems to be, I don't know. Is that a red flag or is it just normal behavior?
I feel like it's very normalized in our society, but I also feel like it's close to the edge. So it's in the gray zone because
Mhm.
it's such a you're so close to falling over the edge or DMing someone or getting a message, all of that stuff because it's a messaging app. It's not a just look app. So I can
That's
understand
interesting.
that it's in the danger zone. I think you should talk about it and you can just say, listen, here's how when you do this, it makes me feel. Here's my line.
Mhm.
And you just have to discuss it. I think that most of the problems we get that come down to just talk about it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Does your wife ever look at men? Like if a guy's jogging down the beach in like a what do they call it? A
Speedo?
speedo type. Yeah, there must be another name for it, but we call it a speedo, like a tiny
That's the
swimsuit.
brand name. Those tiny little the suits, yeah, that kind of show
Yeah,
your
banana
bulges
hammock.
as a man.
Yeah. Does your wife look?
No, but she doesn't have a high libido.
My wife looks. And if the
Uh,
guy's jogging and it's
Yeah,
bouncing, she starts laughing because there's something about a bouncing one that's funny. It just is. I accept that.
I'm
You
glad
know
she
what I mean?
does. It's nice.
So
It's nice.
it's not, yeah. So
Doesn't bother
my,
me.
wa-
Wouldn't bother me if she did.
yeah,
My wife.
it's, that's the thing is that your rule has to be if it's okay for you, it has to be okay for her. So
Yeah.
it's a simple thing. If it's okay for him to look at bikini girls, then it's okay for her to look at Muscle Man on the phone. That's parody. If it would bother him, that's a good way to test it. If it would bother you if your girlfriend did the same thing, then that means you shouldn't do it, right? That's
Well,
how you know.
also, I'll just say I'm not a great advocate of porn at all, but I think there's a
Yeah.
difference in looking at pretty girls and looking at porn in a way.
Instagram is here's the other thing. Most Instagram bios, you click a link to the girl's adult content now. So
I see.
it's a gateway drug to adult content.
Okay. Yeah.
Instagram is really, as far as I understand it, it's really just it's either for dating or for adult services of some kind. It's really not used for anything else. It's
Well, I
either
mean, you have a warped view. People are on all kinds of hobbies on Instagram, like,
well, what
so I
she's
mean,
describing.
I
That's what I'm
totally
talking
agree.
about.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I
I'm sure
totally agree.
there's woodworking Instagram. I don't really use Instagram, by the way. I don't use a lot of these apps, so I don't know
But let's go
other
back to
than
this
what I hear
core
about.
question here. Would it bother me if my wife or girlfriend was looking at guys with
Yeah.
desire and looking and getting, worked up about it? Not really. It wouldn't really bother me. Who's she with? She's with me. To me, it's nice that
Okay.
she feels that. To me, it's
What if
very
she
very nice.
let me ask you another question. What if she subscribed, I guess you pay $5 or $10 or $20 a month for someone's OnlyFans and looks at all this guy's pictures of him playing with himself or
Totally
I don't
different
even
story.
know. I don't know what happens in adult
Yeah.
content for just a guy for women doing jumping jacks or whatever. I don't know what women want to
Mhm.
see. And then she gets a hot bother, then comes and jumps your bones. Upset or
Seems
it's
fine.
okay?
Seems fine to
Yeah, I'm
me.
okay with it too. It
Yeah, it
doesn't
seems
bother me
cool.
at all.
Yeah. The second part made the first part worth it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's
It's
like,
like,
okay,
oh, okay.
good, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
think it's very nice for your partner to have an appreciation for other people. They're with you, but I think it's desirable to have a partner be interested in other people and not that they want to sleep with them, but I think it's great. It's part of being an animal. It's part of life. It's wonderful to me. So I don't have any problem with it.
okay.
I do feel like I take I take photographs. I'm a photographer. I don't take beautiful women on the beach like routinely. I don't look at beautiful women like that. Oh, I'm going to take her picture and not into that because I feel that I feel disloyal if I did that. Just
Yeah,
don't feel right about it.
I feel the same way. I think that's more active
Yeah,
and it's a very
yeah,
different thing.
right.
And yeah, I see what you're saying. So again, there's the line between
Context.
fantasy and reality as well. So I always say that like I'll joke around about flirting with someone, like with my wife. I go, but my wife will sometimes reverse it and then tell the girl to come over and talk to me, and then I don't like that at all. It stops being funny
Oh,
for me because
really?
I don't.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I couldn't.
that's hilarious.
There's nothing
You
I
two and
desire
your games. How fun.
less. There's nothing I desire less than starting a friendship or getting to know a new woman. I can't think of anything I'd want to do less. Which
No
brings me to
interest in it.
my next question.
Okay.
My boyfriend won't let me have close friends of the opposite gender. I'm thinking about breaking up with him. So she's a girl. He doesn't want her to
Hmm.
have male
Hmm.
friends.
Hmm.
And she says all of my closest friends are men.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you
Are
right
they
now,
gay men or are they straight men?
doesn't Doesn't matter. Have you ever seen There's Something About Mary? And
Yeah.
one of the guys, like one of her guys is pretending to be on crutches, another guy's pretending to be gay. Guys will do all sorts of things to get close to a woman.
Anything.
And now she says, I'm a researcher in a male dominated field. Most of my coworkers are men and stuff like that. But although my best friend has a boyfriend, he's bisexual. So nothing ambiguous has ever happened between us. I don't believe her.
No, I think this is a very, very serious red flag.
My experience,
very
every
serious
time
red
I've met
flag.
a woman who has a lot of guys that are friends with her, she might be in denial.
There's always
Right,
things
she
going
might-
on. There's
there's
attraction,
something-
always attraction. Of course there is.
There's something going, and it's just a little bit. At the same time, it's also a red flag for me if someone doesn't have friends. If she doesn't have, she's not friends with any women, that also means there's something going on. Usually,
but I
that
think
happens.
it's very odd. I don't think it's a good thing for a woman has friends that are all male. To me, that's a red flag. That's a
right.
just
There's
the
two
same thing with
things-
a man having all women friends.
Well, there's two things going on. Why don't other women want to be friends with her? And that's because
Right.
they see her as a threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said,
But
"Oh,
she-
all of my friends have wives and girlfriends. Really? Why aren't any of them friends with you?" There's something going on here.
No,
And-
she meant. Oh, you mean why aren't the women friends with her?
right.
Well,
So
because she is a threat, because she is, and she's just denying it, and of course she is, and so that could be a problem. You know, this stuff is something that men don't pay enough attention to early in the relationship. Then they get kind of psychologically committed, romantically committed, and then it's too late, and then they end up in a really bad situation that was so easily predictable and seen early on when they could have been somewhat objective.
You have to pay attention to who someone spends most time with. We're the
Yeah.
average of the people we spend the most time with. So my wife had a friend who we were dating early on, was dating one of my friends and cheating on him. And she would try to get my wife to go with her on double dates with other guys to cheat with her.
I
She's like,
see.
I'm cheating on him. Why don't you cheat on your boyfriend? And my wife fortunately didn't go for it. But
Well,
you have to pay attention because there's a lot of signs. And this is the same thing. Like if a guy's only friends with women, or if a guy has no friends, or if women will pay attention. If a guy says, I've never been in a relationship, that's a red flag for a lot of women. They go, well, why is that?
so
They
a
don't
man
want-
who is only friends with women typically isn't a real accommodator, is generally not very masculine, kind of has the nice guy. He's way too much of a nice guy.
Or
And
it can also be the far end of the spectrum, the guy who's hooked up with all of them, who's
okay,
kind of at that end
Could
of the
be.
spectrum. It's
Could be.
either one.
okay,
There are two ends of the spectrum that you don't want it. They're just both red flags for different reasons.
yeah. So there's a guy here, actually a woman here. She says, I was given a Rolex by my parents when I
Okay.
graduated high school at 18. I worn it every day.
Wow.
I'm not rich, you know. I wouldn't even be able to afford it, but they gave it to me. So now I'm back in the dating game. I've got lots of dates, and the guys will ask me about my watch. They'll say, "Oh, is it real?" And I've noticed that when I say yes, it's real, the mood tends to sour for some reason. I'm not sure why. So my question is, maybe should I not wear this watch on dates, or should I lie and say it's fake?
Sorry. This is a woman who wears a Rolex?
It's a woman. That's a 30-year-old woman.
And the men ask if it's real.
I know, isn't that funny? I thought it was a man, but it's definitely a woman who's writing
It's
this.
so I have a Rolex that I never wear. I got an
have
amazing
some
deal on it.
I have beautiful watches I never wear too. Also, really nice.
So here's my experience, because I think watches is a really good discussion. I used to wear a watch that cost around $60 that was black with orange, and it was really catch your eye.
Why
It
would
was
you
really
spend so
attention
much
grabbing.
money on a watch?
I had so many women ask me about it. It worked all the time. Women go, "Wow, your watch is so interesting."
It
Constantly.
was a big watch, right? You said you wore a really big,
Yeah.
obvious watch.
The
kind of
bigger the
a-
watch is, the better. That's more important than anything
as
else.
a guy,
The size
as a guy.
for a guy, yes. Because here's why, and this is very simple. Women are not used to approaching men. It's not natural for a woman to know pickup lines. If a woman finds you attractive or wants to chat to you, it's very easier for her to go say, "Interesting watch." That's the role that it serves. It's a conversation icebreaker. It makes it
opener.
easier
Mhm.
it makes
Okay.
it easier for people to talk to you. And I've had a lot of women say, start by talking to me that way. It just makes life easier for them. And it's just, when you're single, why not make life easier for other people that like you?
Right.
When I started wearing a Rolex, one person noticed it was another guy who was wearing a Rolex. People don't notice.
As they don't even
Um,
notice at all. Because they noticed
I
this big
wouldn't,
garish watch that was cheap,
right? Because it's
but a very
interesting.
classy, expensive watch. Women don't notice. They
No,
really
and
don't.
they
I've actually had women also say this about cars. Now, there are women that notice really nice cars, but I've had so many women who said, I didn't even know what he was driving. And he's been driving some expensive, sports classic car. And she goes, oh, it's cool. But she doesn't know what kind. She doesn't care.
yeah.
So I've seen that
There's
too.
because there's a spectrum of what a Rolex is worth. There's Rolexes that are worth like $500, or Rolexes that are worth 500. I couldn't tell you if you put two of those in front of me, I wouldn't know
I don't think
the more
there's a
expensive
$500
ones.
Rolex, but okay, I know what you mean.
Oh,
Maybe a $2,000 Rolex.
well, mine was $2,000 when I bought it, more like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just
By the way,
assumed
never buy a new watch. Always buy a used one.
I assume I don't have the lowest. I assume that I just assume there must be a cheaper one. Maybe I have the cheapest one in
The
existence. I
cheap
don't know.
one don't have a lot of features, basically.
Well,
But
none of them have any features. None of them are tracking your footsteps or.
no, I mean date, things like that. The old watches.
Yeah.
Wow, it tells the date. My gosh, the automatic watches. They have a mechanical thing inside. It's a bit like sailboats. It's like not the best way to tell time. It's not the best way to get around on the ocean, but it's cool. So anyway, I think she should not wear her watch on dates, or she should lie and say it's fake. I agree. Probably shouldn't wear it on dates. I don't know
it's better not
what the
lie.
reason is
It's
that guys are jealous.
so weird.
Isn't that well? What do you think it is? Like the mood
The
tends to sour, is what she says.
It's so there's a bunch of things happening that really surprise me. First of all, is that all the guys are noticing it's a Rolex and asking about it.
Lots of my dates ask about my watch. She says,
So
"Yep, lots."
surprising. I mean, maybe it's a really obvious Rolex. I don't know how to say this because I just wouldn't. If you were wearing a Rolex, I
If
would
it's a
not
women's
know.
watch, when it's a smaller, less obvious watch,
I
if
would
it's
never
feminine,
know. I wouldn't notice it,
I
even
would
though I have a
notice
Rolex.
I love watches. I always look at watches people wear, but that's
Yeah, but
me.
that's what I mean. It's not that common to be a watch. I know watch guys exist, right? You're a watch guy. There's not a lot.
I am.
So the
I
fact
used to
that
have a big collection. Now I only have a few pieces. I don't care
but
about
it's
them
like,
anymore.
is she just dating watch guys? Or that's what I mean. So overall, there's something else going on here that's very strange that they're all asking about it. And I don't know why, but my recommendation
So they
just don't wear it on
feel
the
that
dates.
somehow she's unapproachable, difficult, stuck up or something. Like they're picking up on something from this woman.
It's so
vibe.
weird that her saying it's real is causing a negative reaction. That's baffling to me. I just wouldn't care. I guess that's why I don't understand. Like, who cares what watch someone wears?
Well, I don't care about a woman's watch. I mean,
Would you?
okay.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If a man does the watch a man's wearing change how much you want to be friends with him?
No, I couldn't care less.
Okay, and you're a watch guy. That's what I'm saying. You're a watch guy and you don't care. These guys notice it, ask about it, then don't like her answer. So
well, at
many
one
moving
time I
parts
bought.
to that.
I really love watches, but at one point I found these watches. Like one was like a guitar watch, one was like a piano watch. They were
That's
like
cool.
$20, but I thought they were so cool that I bought them. So it's not the cost of the watch; it's just how interesting it is to me.
I like those.
You know.
That's what I like too.
Yeah,
I like those watches that look like that. I like watches that are more interesting for sure. So now you're back into my realm. I think a lot of people who are into watches only care about the price of the watch, or it's a rare watch. I like interesting. So now you're back in my realm, because I saw there was a bunch of watches from one company that look like airplanes, and you can get a watch that looks like a different airplane. I'm not an airplane guy.
I love skeleton
either.
watches too. I love watches, where you can see the insides and their gears and stuff moving. Those are cool. I love those.
Yeah. I don't know why it's a shame that she's meeting these guys. Also, maybe it's good to screen out guys that are that weird about her watch. Like, maybe it's
could be
good
actually
to
a good thing. Yeah, it could really be a good thing, right? It's like, oh,
I had
they
a
failed the
friend-
watch test. I'm not going out with that
Yeah.
guy again.
One time a guy told me, he goes, I would much rather a girl cheat on me after the first date than after we're engaged. I was like, that's a pretty good point. You better find out early on.
Well,
that it's the wrong
I think
guy.
that is a good point. You want to have some simple tests early on before you're committed psychologically.
If
to
a guy's gonna not like you because of a watch your parents gave you 12
then
years
you're
ago,
lucky. You're lucky that you
I'd
found this out.
wouldn't you rather find out on the first date that this guy's weird?
Yeah. So really, you just need more dates, and you get one that's cool with your watch, and then that's a keeper.
So I think the problem is this is a symptom. The problem is where the guys are coming from. The fact that it keeps happening. I've got one that's interesting.
Okay.
Now, this is the tricky one. how do I tell my wife that I don't like her mustache? So it's a tough
Is it
one.
Groucho Marx mustache or what is it?
It's getting there. So early on, it wasn't an issue, but over the last year or so, she's just let her facial hair grow out,
Oh, it's
which
not
is
attractive.
she used to
Not,
bleach it, but now she doesn't. She just lets it go. It's not a fun bussy mustache like a man, but it's pretty close.
it's a fuzzy. It's like a peach fuzz.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean,
I'm assuming.
yeah, I think that it's, but you're talking about a landmine here, right? You bring this up in the wrong way, she's going to be very upset.
We just had a discussion about shaving for the girl. To just get them
Yeah. Well,
together. Maybe it's
let me throw some ideas at you. Every time she tries to kiss you, you sneeze, go, oh my gosh, sorry, your mustache just tickled me. I want to kiss you, but it tickles me so much. That way you're not saying you don't like it, but it's like, oh, it's hard, mustache to mustache. Or, oh,
You know
when
what I'm
kiss me,
wondering though?
like it's so scratchy.
Here's the thing that I'm wondering. What happened? So apparently she was depilating. She was removing the hairs. Then she stopped doing it. Why did she stop taking care of herself that way? Because she's with a boyfriend now? She's secure in a
Married.
relationship so she can let herself go? What is going on here?
You go through phases. Once you get married, you go through that phase of I don't have to work as hard anymore. A lot of people do, right? You
Yeah.
go, oh, I can coast
I
now.
won. I got her now. I won her. That's it.
And she might be feeling the same way. But I think the core issue here is if you don't have a habit of conversation and you don't just say how you feel about things, then it builds up and then it becomes a lot weirder. If she goes,
No,
why didn't
like
you say
I said,
anything?
I think there's something happening because she stopped taking care of herself. She
Yeah,
stopped
or it could
removing
be,
those hairs. Well, she did,
or it could be,
apparently.
or maybe it's an age thing. And like at 30, you start, like at 40, I started growing a lot of hair out of my ears.
Mhm.
It just happened. It just hits you. Certain things happen at different ages. But
Right.
you just need to just talk to her. Just be like, hey, I noticed you're going through some changes. Can we talk about it? And just like, because he's going down this rabbit hole of, oh, is it body shaming? Is it this, that? It's like, well,
Well, he could leave her like send anonymous messages like from an electrolyst. By the way, honey, did you get that? I got this spam from somebody. She says she can remove facial hair of women. Did you get that message? Huh.
Why do we keep getting retargeted with these ads?
Yeah.
ever since we got this Ring camera, we keep getting ads for mustache removal.
They had a ad a long time ago for a mouthwash, and the idea was that a coworker would leave it like in someone's desk who had bad breath. Instead of saying something, they would just leave the scope or whatever it was.
Can you imagine how upset you would be? I had a friend in 8th grade whose breath was so bad. I still remember it 35 years later. And I said something to him and like he never spoke. I was like, listen, I'm really good friends with you, but I don't know. No one's going to tell you, but you have to deal with your situation.
And he didn't. And he got mad at you and he got filled with shame and hurt. He never talked to you again.
And I tried it and I did not try to do it. And it's like, well, wouldn't you want to know? But I realize now that
should have left the anonymous mouthwash, in his locker.
He already knew.
Something.
You know what? I've figured out the guys who have this problem are always gum guys. If they know, they just chew gum all the time. It never works, but that's what they're trying to do. And because I've known a couple of people who have the problem and they're always chewing gum. It's like their approach to it. I don't know that it works.
So if you have a hygiene issue like that or body smell, you have to change your diet. You have to change your grooming routine. You have to change how you're cleaning yourself down there, whatever it is. There's all the different possibilities, but you need to make all sorts of changes because sometimes bad breath can be a symptom of dental disease or a symptom of gut problem.
Yeah.
And unless you make a lot of changes, you're not going to find those things out. So I feel like it's really hard to do this, but the only appropriate reaction when someone says something like that is thank you so much. I appreciate it. Even though it hurts and you're feeling a little bit ashamed, but you have to thank them and appreciate that someone cares enough to tell you that. Even if you don't feel like thanking them, you still have to.
If I'm not wearing any deodorant and I like have my arms above my head lying on the bed, like next to my wife or my kids, my wife will go, put your arm down. Or she'll go, where's the deodorant? I have to put it on you right now. It's horrible. Like there's no gentleness. And my kids are like, oh no, Dad, it's a nightmare. So when people bring it up with me, it's not gentle, but it is what it is. I'm just aware of it. So usually I can smell it.
So you say, oh, thank you. Just like someone says, oh,
I
you
don't
got
love
a,
it.
you got a thing in your nose hanging out of your nose or whatever. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you don't love it, but you have to be thank someone for caring and telling you that. You don't want to go around with a
Yeah,
booger in your nose.
I don't get
That's not
mad.
a good look. That's not a good look. Everyone's saying that today. That's not a good look. That's a big thing to say. Okay, so this is one that I think is very, very interesting. I've been seeing a girl for about 3 weeks now. We've been on 4 dates. Yesterday we
Love it.
spent the day together.
Ooh.
And anyway, she wanted me to take a gummy, one of those gummies that has the weed.
Yep.
And he goes, okay,
Hmm.
I'll try it. So now we have that. We haven't really had physical relations yet. We haven't touched each other than holding hands and kissing a little bit or whatever.
Oh,
So we
okay.
watch the movie, we're cuddling, the gummies kick in. So I'm putting my hand on, her various parts and I go, is this okay? And she says, yes. So I'm moving into the, major area there. Right.
Okay.
And I say, is this okay? She goes, yes. And then there's this vibe as we're going along. She doesn't like it. Her legs, there's like a body language thing. I could just see she's kind of blocking me to her most private area. So I pull
Okay.
away and I apologize. And
Huh.
she really can't speak to me since about this. She says, well, we watched some more of the movie kind of in silence. And I said, is everything okay? Oh, yeah, it's fine. So now the morning, I feel horrible, embarrassed the next morning. I feel like I screwed up. I texted her that I got home and, she put a love the message thing, but that's it. There's nothing else.
Um.
And so I sent her this text. I deeply apologize for what happened
What?
last night. I'm embarrassed, truly,
Huh?
and did not mean to make you uncomfortable. I promise you this will never happen again. And she responds, she says, I'm going to take some time and space to think because I do feel like my boundaries were ignored. I don't see how they
Yeah.
were ignored, by the way, but I have to
He.
respect her decision
So he got affirmative consent, which is so rare.
constantly, constantly, which I think
So
is a little bit, you know,
that's a real mood killer.
unusual.
It's well, I mean, you have to do it in some states now, so I get that, but it's
Do you remember? Do you remember the joke? Do you know what this is? Like, do you like it like this or like this? Do you like it like this or like this? Do you know what that is?
yeah. Yeah, but
Remember
he
that?
said, "Is this okay? Is this okay?" And she kept
Is this a
saying
guy?
yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't think she should be I don't think it's fair for her to be upset if she said
No,
it's okay.
no.
He stopped and says, "Hey, can I touch this?" Yes. Why did you touch that? I don't know why he's upset and embarrassed. It wasn't like he just went for it without any permission, right? He just went for it
Yeah,
without
and
and
as a
she
man, if you get rebuffed, that's cool. So that's your job. Your job is to push the boundaries in a very
eh,
nice way because you're attracted to her. She feels like she's attractive. Women like being attractive. The man is, attracted to her. She feels good about that. She, may slap his hand. No, 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 no. Not right now, not yet. That's cool. Now he
right.
gets to try
She
again next time. That's all. That's the game.
when
Isn't it the
she
game,
said
really?
no, he stopped. When
Yeah.
she gave the no sign, as
Right.
soon and she didn't I feel like the way she did it was very immature. If they're doing
I think he
verbally
is
consent,
overreacting to this a lot, by the way,
she
as a
also but
man.
she's obviously
She
overreacting
also
too.
is.
She
Right.
could have said, "Stop." She gave him permission, and then she said no with body language. It's like, well, why did you switch to body language if you're already doing it verbally? So it's obvious there's so much room for miscommunication because she switched languages on him. She said okay with her words, but not okay with her body language. So that's a jump. And there's obviously some misinterpretation happened there. I don't know why she didn't just say, okay, I don't like that. If she's already saying what I like and don't like, they've already established that.
Yeah.
So that probably
I
threw
don't
him
think he
off
should
as
have
well.
apologized when he
No,
pulled away. That's a
he
bad
doesn't
thing.
sound like he did.
He
It
said,
doesn't
I got the vibe. I
sound,
pulled away immediately and
yeah.
apologized. I think that's way overreacting to something. She's just saying, no, 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 not yet. That's all.
Well, but you hear the way she reacted in her message. I have to think about. Here's what I think happened: is it's the classic case of she's not horny for you.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
also think she tricked him. She got him to take a gummy. He acted a little bit wild on it. And then she's like, "Oh, why did you act weird when you did something
Hmm.
you don't normally do that I gave you?"
Do
And
you
you
think
responded to it.
those gummies tend to lower our inhibitions to some degree, or they? Because I feel
Yeah,
like they do. They don't necessarily work like alcohol, but they do make the
they make you
physical act more
dumber.
pleasurable and more horny.
Yeah, I mean,
I think.
they definitely make you not your normal self. And if he's someone who's
Yeah,
never done one before, which is what it
yeah,
kind of sounds like.
it
So she
does.
said, "Come to my house, take this." She pressured him to do something he wouldn't normally do. Then he
He
acted a
said,
little
"I've never
weird.
taken a gummy before." That's what he
Yeah,
said.
so I feel like she has done a lot of things here that weren't cool. And unless he's not describing what actually happened accurately, I think that she's the one who's made him do something he doesn't normally do. And here's why he did it. The reason he took a gummies for the hook is she like used her allure to get him because that's how guys always end up doing these things, right? She peer pressure him
Right.
doing something you wouldn't normally do. He goes, oh, if I do
Right.
this, then she'll think I'm cool. Then she'll sleep with me.
Right.
And then he asked the fact that even on a gummy, he's doing, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Which is a mood killer. And then this miscommunication happened. You have to, they're both adults. They're both
I
late
wouldn't have
20s,
asked.
whatever.
I wouldn't have asked, is this okay?
No,
That's a
I
really, it
would,
is a mood killer.
I usually say, my belief is that the man is the gas, the woman's the brakes. If she says no, you stop for sure.
Yeah.
And you just say that front, say, listen, I'm going to do stuff. If you want me to stop, you say stop, I stop. That's the thing I always establish and make it really clear. If you don't want me to touch something, then you just tell me and I won't touch it.
Right.
But the fact that she said, yeah, go ahead and touch it. And then he goes, why did you touch it? Well, now we're into a really weird space.
Yeah.
Where it's very tricky. I've been in situations where women have said, stop. And I jump away. They go, why did you stop? I'm like, I don't play that game. There are women who like that thing where they say no, but they mean yes.
Yeah.
I don't do that. That makes me so uncomfortable that I go, I can't figure that out. If you say no, I'm going to stop. That's your fetish, I don't know how to operate in that realm. Once you start playing, oh, that no doesn't mean no, but I have a safe word. And if I say tangerine, stop. And if I say no, keep going. All of that stuff, to me, it's too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I will stop.
I don't think she likes this man. Like you said, I don't think she's attracted sexually to him at all.
No, he's in the friend zone.
Yep, he's in the friend zone.
I think that she could just tell him the truth.
She might have someone else that she's sleeping with.
She definitely does. If she was into him, she would have been fine with it, right? If it was a super handsome guy or whatever movie star she likes, she'd be fine.
Because she's just friends and doesn't see him as a boyfriend. Period. So, and I don't apologize when you do that. You know, you're being a man. It's a good thing.
He's like, I'm so embarrassed, but he didn't. At least in the version he told us, he didn't. Don't be ashamed.
Don't be ashamed of your libido and your sex drive. You're a man. You're fine with that. If she doesn't necessarily want you to continue, that's cool. That happens with my wife sometimes. You know, she wants to do certain things to a certain point at a certain time. I'm always wanting to go further. She doesn't want to. Cool. You know, maybe there's people in the next room or, you know, whatever. So, I mean, it happens. I don't care. I don't take it personally.
Yeah, but that's a shame. But you just have to have. I think it would be nice if she just said, listen, the truth. She goes, I didn't want you to do it because I'm not actually into you. Whatever. Yeah. Like that's what really happened.
But she doesn't want to lose a friend. She wants to have it all. She wants to have her friend, the man, and do gummies together and have a good time.
Well, I mean, should you really be with someone who makes you do stuff like that? If that's the price. Oh, I'll sleep with you as long as you do something you wouldn't normally do. That's a slippery slope as well. So I don't like anything about this situation. I've got one for you. Let's change gears. I just got an email on my husband's iPad that the hot water in his apartment building is going to be shut down. We live in our own house and we haven't rented in over a decade. So there's a possibility.
I don't get it.
She thinks he has a secret apartment.
Oh, okay.
That's what she thinks. He has a secret apartment and they're shutting down the water in his secret apartment. I actually think I still get emails like this from places I lived 10 years ago. I actually think just their own apartment building probably mailed them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I get notified about
anything.
Yeah. I don't know that it means anything, but you know, there's no other emails from this person or about this apartment complex in my husband's
She just asked about it, I suppose, you know. But she may have other suspicions. I mean, she may have other things she's observed that she feels that he's fooling around. He has what they would call a mistress. You know, all sorts of things that could be in the background here. But on its own, it's not a big deal.
You know, she's like, she's like, my husband's out of town, so I drove by the apartment building. I emailed them, but they're closed for the next couple of weeks, so there's no one to answer my message. And he never lived there in the past, all of this stuff. Okay.
Be careful what you ask for and what you want to find out, because you can find out a lot of stuff that you may not be happy knowing about. And things might have been fine before. Who knows?
I just think about, can you imagine the effort of maintaining a second residence? It's so much work. Why? I mean, there's some follow-ups and it sounds like the guy does have an apartment
there.
All
he had to do is say, honey, I've got another apartment because I want to entertain other women. So you might get bills or you might see things from that, and that's no problem. Yeah. It's just my side action here. Don't worry about it.
Don't you have your own place too?
You're my main woman. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Don't you have your own apartment, your own house, second apartment too? I assume we
Of
just kept
course.
our own apartments.
Of course I do.
The effort that goes into this type of thing, I don't know why a guy wants this. If you don't want to live with her, don't be married to her. If you want to a second apartment, what a bunch of work. You know what I mean? I mean, and here's the thing. It might just be full of video games. Like, what if it's just a man cave? He's like, that's where I
Or
go.
maybe he's a writer and he needs to get away and write. Instead of checking into a hotel room, he has his own apartment. Because
If I had a second apartment, that's what I would have it. I would have it. The last thing I would have there is another wife. Like, I would have anything other than that. Like, that's the whole point.
I know. Like, what's the point? So, this is a woman writing in. I guess a lot from women this week. She says, "My boyfriend cheated, and it felt like things were a bit off. We hadn't been hanging around as much. He wasn't taking me out in public as much. Okay. Last weekend we went to a party, etc. I was checking his phone somehow. It's not that I don't trust him
Somehow.
somehow.
It fell into my hand.
I open his Snapchat. He's got 2 female profiles as his best friends. He's been talking and flirting with both of them. I'm feeling sick. My gut is wrenching. He snatches the phone away when he notices that we have some harsh words. I should have known what's going on. And now I'm pregnant, and he says
What?
I should get, and this is a key point. He says I should get an abortion. The boyfriend says I should get an abortion. I can't have kids with you. He says, I just can't.
Oh, well,
She says she's like 4 to 6 weeks along. I hope she's not in some of the states that 6 weeks is the limit. If you don't get rid of it by 6 weeks, you're done. That's how it is in like Texas and Florida now. I think actually.
I don't think it's 6 weeks.
It is 6 weeks. It is 6 weeks.
Well, then I guess you're gonna be a mom. I don't listen. That's a different conversation. Here's the first question: is like, there's so many moving parts to this. I accidentally went through his phone, and then I accidentally opened his Snapchat, and I accidentally found like
and there are harsh words. And by the way, if someone is lying to you, they attack you.
Well, aren't they broken up?
Where they're at is, she says, he wants me to get an abortion. Okay, I don't want one. Okay, but I don't want to force him to be a parent. She says, some people like hate and regret kids because of the money. Okay, I don't feel that. Yeah, she says some men hate and regret kids because of money. She says it's so expensive. A lot of people say, "Oh, I wish I didn't have kids. It's just so expensive," or "I don't want kids because it's too expensive," or whatever.
How old is this woman? Does she say?
Yeah, she's in her mid-20s.
Wow. Okay, because I thought she was gonna be way younger with all this Snapchat
So basically,
stuff.
let's just look at it this way: she's done with this guy, so her choice is to be a single mom or not. Or to have an abortion. And she doesn't want an abortion, so she should be a single mom and get rid of the guy.
Okay.
And it's a tough thing, very tough thing.
I mean, people don't realize how hard it is to be a single mom, and
yeah,
all of the moving parts. But she knew something was up.
Yeah,
she's made a series of poor decisions in a row. She got pregnant with a guy. She was suspicious. That's why she went through his phone. Let's be honest. She didn't go through his phone because she trusts him. She was suspicious. She went through his phone. I mean, was he cheating? I couldn't really understand if he's just like Snapchat. I don't know what Snapchat means.
He probably is cheating. But let me also point something out. A lot of pregnancies end within a few months. So, probably 40% of the time it'll be lost. So it's really but if she keeps the baby at some point, she's not gonna be able to have an abortion or not. And she said she doesn't want one anyway.
Well, there you go. So if she wants to have the baby,
she doesn't want one, have the baby then if you could bring it to term, but not with him. Doesn't seem like he's very good. Well, can't trust him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's weird as she keeps calling him her boyfriend. It's not her ex. So it's like they're still together, but she's like.
But again, the key is he's attacks her with harsh words. Instead of explaining and apologizing and saying, he's attacking her. That's always when someone lies, they always attack you.
Huh.
Yeah. That's
I mean, it's a bad situation. It really stinks. I feel bad for her, but I just find, and this is kind of endemic to our culture, people just pick really bad people and then get pregnant way too much because it all kind of comes down to this thing where we're so obsessed with short-term relationship characteristics. I bet it's like he's handsome or he's cool or he's tall or whatever.
It's not necessary to get pregnant, to make him wear a condom and make sure it's working.
Well, I can tell you right now, the number of women do not take it seriously. I've dated so many women who
Mhm.
I ask this all the time. I go, one of the first things I'll ask them, I go, "Are you on birth control?" The number of women who say no, it's like 80 to 90%. It all and these are women who are sleeping with someone like me, so we're on the promiscuous
And
end of the
I don't
spectrum.
feel birth control is healthy, and I wouldn't want my daughter to be on birth control. But I mean, you can make the guy wear a condom. It's perfectly fine. It works pretty well.
Well, these are the same kind of women as well that like don't have a condom with them, so they're you know what I mean.
Mhm. Yeah,
They're
it's
not
very
taking
irresponsible. Very
yeah, so they don't
irresponsible.
have that's what I mean. They don't have any birth control plan at
By the
all.
way,
Their
most
plan is
abortions
luck.
these days, they send you 2 pills, you take them, and you have the abortion. Very few are done in a clinic anymore. Most of them are
I,
done with pills.
I don't know. I know there's the morning after. I've never been in that situation where I've never gotten someone pregnant. I've never dealt with it. I've just always
No,
been
me neither.
responsible.
I've been very
I,
careful
you
because
have
as
to
a
be
man,
responsible.
you could be fucked for the rest of your life, you know? So one
Well, you're
little
both
act for 3
kind
seconds
of
and
ruined.
you're
It kind of gets
you
both
know,
of you. Yeah.
yeah. So
So
here's
they
a
both
question for you.
okay.
Deepest okay, what do you think? This is a survey. They said, "What is your deepest, darkest kink?" Okay, so they asked men and women this. For women, what do you think the top one is?
Non-consensual.
Well, they claim in this survey it's outdoors, sex outdoors. Number 2 is
No,
blindfolded. Number 3 is body piercings. Number 4 is role play. Number 5 is dressing up, sexy costumes. All the way to number 7, domination, submission.
no, that's not true.
I don't agree. Well, that's what they claim. I think these women were lying. The
I
men said top 10 do it
two women.
yourself DIY porn, role
Huh?
play, specifically with uniforms,
No,
bondage, spanking,
no,
and so forth. Well, that might be the bondage one, could be number
it's not
3,
number
but
3.
maybe number 1.
No, like maybe number 7. This is a BS statistic. So every woman I've ever been with, I always say, "What's your fantasy?" It's an early on question I ask.
I think sex in public is a fantasy that's common with women. Public,
It's
sex can be
not.
discovered.
That's not as high up though. That's like a lower one. I can
It's
tell
pretty
you
high.
right now.
It's pretty high.
Like I'm thinking it's like number 7. So I can tell you number 1 is non-consensual for sure. Because the number of women who said that to me was so shocking to me.
Well, I would call that number 7. That's domination submission. I would say number
No,
7. So,
I'm talking they usually use the word for it. They
I know
straight up go, my fantasy
they do.
is they don't say
Made to do it.
non-consensual. And I go,
Made to do it. It's like no control over what happens.
yeah,
I
they
think the
go,
number. I agree. I think that is the number 1 fantasy is having not being able to control what happens and things
yeah.
happen. And
Number
I think
2
it's.
is I think number 2 is probably choking.
Mhm.
Because I've encountered because these are all the ones I encountered that I'm not doing that. I'm afraid to do that with someone. I don't like
Well,
it. I don't
for
think it's
men, number
romantic.
5 was threesomes, which I could
That's
say is
no, that's number
possible.
1. Let's be honest. That's number 1. Like that's what I'm saying. Like let me ask you a question. Would you rather see a video of your butt on camera or be with 2 women? Like that's you know what I mean? Like, come on. There's no way most guys are saying, I want to see myself. Just doesn't sound true. It doesn't sound true.
So I would say that when they ask questions of people, a lot of times people are asking themselves, what is acceptable for me to answer and what isn't? And so
Do you
they're
think they're
not going
giving
to
them a
say what they
list?
really think. They're just going to say what they think that a person wants to hear because it's too dark and deep
How
for
was
them
the
to.
survey delivered? Was it in person or anonymous? If it's
I
not
don't know.
anonymous, it's no,
Yeah.
you can't trust it.
And also, people are, oh, this is true. In fact, I'm reading a book by this sex researcher named Harold Litton. He died a few years ago, but it's really good books he's written. He was a sex researcher. And he said that people have fantasies that are very common, but they think that these are very unusual and particularly dark and no one else has them. And he said that they're like universal. So, he wrote a whole book about them actually. And there's a number of books about women's fantasies, such
Yeah,
as Her Secret Garden,
so shocking.
which,
That one
but
split my wig.
yeah, it's very shocking, but there's very few about men's fantasies. So he wrote a whole book about fantasy, and it was primarily for men.
Is it all foot
And
stuff?
some of it, but basically, it's very similar in a sense. It's a lot about control. It's about who is controlling the physical act, being out either domination, submission. I think those are the top ones. It could be the opposite sex. It could be the same sex, even for heterosexual men and women. Also, could have fantasies about other women. It doesn't mean that they're not straight, completely straight, but they think that they're the only ones that have this, and that it's something really particularly dark and deep. And as he reveals in the book, that they're quite normal, actually. So everybody's thinking that they're weird, and actually they're normal. That's what it
Yeah.
amounts to.
You think you have
What's
like
the
a
next?
really exotic fantasy and you're just boring. I've got one that you're gonna love.
Okay.
I'm 25. My best friend just proposed to me. I'm confused and mortified. My best
Is
friend of
this a
two
woman or a
years.
man writing?
This is a woman. My best friend of
Okay.
2 years, a boy, publicly proposed to me. I have no idea what to do.
Oh, how about saying yes or no?
Well, I think that, you know, I don't think proposing in public is cool because it puts this huge pressure on the woman.
Mhm.
And like, if you do it like in a baseball stadium or whatever, and this is interesting because some
Unless,
people,
unless you say to her, "Will you marry me?" Or will you just take it under advisement and let me know within a couple weeks? If you give her an out, she doesn't feel like she has to give you an
nobody
answer, then
says
it's
that.
okay.
I just think that I think that if you're going to do the big
Lawyers say
public,
that all the time. That's what lawyers
yeah,
do. You could take
I,
would you just take it under submission? Just let me know your ruling within let's say 2 weeks. That would be really cool.
to have someone you're not dating propose to you is pretty
Oh,
intense.
it's really intense. What so he's been secretly in love with her, like really, really in love with her.
For two
And
years.
the normal kinds of filters that should be on about your behavior, apparently he thinks don't apply to him. You shouldn't be doing that to somebody. Springing on. Now, when I was in high school,
Mhm.
I had a girl I really liked, and we were, I would say girlfriend and boyfriend. But I wanted to escalate physically way too fast, and I didn't know
So
how
you,
to do it.
so you proposed.
Well, so that's the point. I didn't propose, but
Okay.
she got kind of freaked out, and then she felt bad that she got freaked out, and I felt, it was, one of those things very traumatic in my life, really. So for him, it's very traumatic because he thought she was really into him, and she didn't see him that way at all. To her, she has this friend, he's a buddy, women, and then all of a sudden he wants to marry her. Like, what's the deal? That's pretty shocking. So he obviously didn't have a clue as to her feelings for him or lack of her feelings for him because he wanted her to be in love with him just as he was in love with her. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen sometimes. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, it's anytime you and the other person think you're in two different types of relationships. Like I've had women break up with me before, and I said, "We're not dating. What's happening here?" That's happened to me a couple times in my life, like 2 or 3 times where a woman will break up. And I'm like, "We went on one date. What are you doing?"
Well, I had a buddy of
It's-
mine, a
You're
friend, a
jumping
good
the
friend of
gun.
mine. He was like, we worked together in a company and then in the sales, part of a sales team. And a new guy came aboard, a new sales guy for like, I don't know, several weeks. And my friend was asked to be the best man at his wedding. And he'd met him
Amazing.
like 2 weeks ago.
Did he do it?
He did. The guy didn't have anyone else,
No,
he was new
that's
and
so. I think that's really normal. There's a lot of guys that have no guy friends.
he just needed to fill in this spot, this blank
Yeah.
spot here in the wedding party. Would you just do it so it's like in Japan, they'd hire someone professionally, I suppose. But in this
Yeah.
case, the guy was so off with his thoughts about this woman and what her feelings are for him. So guys, don't propose to people that are your friends. So let's say that
Yeah,
you
that's
have
not the way
a
out of the
female
friend zone.
friend. Okay, let's say you have a female friend. Let's talk about this again. He's got this friend. He's secretly, he's going home fantasizing about her in the future and what she looks like without her clothes on and all that sort of thing. And she doesn't even care about him at all. What should he do to show that he wants her romantically instead of as a friend?
He's already wait. So he's already in the friend zone?
He's in the friend zone. Correct. Yeah. This is the situation.
Okay.
He's in the friend zone. He's got a ring that he really likes her. He really wants to spend his life with her, but she sees him as a friend. So what should he do instead of proposing? What would be a better route for him to take for all the guys listening who are in this situation, which actually is more than we think?
Propose to someone else. Like if you
Yeah.
already have a ring, that's like if you already have
I'm
a
just
if you've
kidding.
already bought a
He
ring,
doesn't
you
really
have
have the
a
ring. I'm just kidding. Point is, he likes this
if
girl.
here's how you
She
get
sees
out of
him
the
as a
friend
friend.
zone.
All right.
Getting out of the friend zone is very simple. It's a 3-step process. Step 1 is you pull back. Step 2 is you break rapport. Step 3 is you leave on a high note. It's these 3 steps. Break rapport means that you stop doing things together all the time. You stop being so available. You start to let her know what it feels like to not have you around all the time. This is important. You have to change it from she can have half of you or all of you to she can have none of you or all of you. That's a normal relationship. I'm either married to my wife or not. My wife didn't have the choice of being friends with me or being married to me, right? Because then you can have half a relationship or a whole relationship. So that's what you're usually stuck with. So that's what break rapport means. The second thing is that you want to be unavailable. The less they see you, it gives her time to reset how she perceives you to go, okay, I haven't seen him in a few weeks. How much do I miss him?
And you have said this before, and I think it's so right on. You've said that attraction is built when you're apart, not when you're
Absolutely.
together.
You know, when, like the first time you're
I
apart
didn't
from your
realize how
wife,
much I miss her. I didn't realize that.
yeah,
I thought we were friends and now we're not together this weekend. I wonder what she's doing. I wonder
yeah,
if she's on a date. I wonder if she's going out with a guy. You start going crazy with jealousy and everything. And that's what would happen with her if she likes the guy, if there's a chance.
exactly. It triggers that feeling of like, oh, wait, I actually do like him. I didn't realize it because he's been
Yeah.
around all the time. I haven't had a chance for the attraction to
And
grow.
then you start feeling jealous about what he could be doing.
And
Which,
then what you
third
want to
one,
do is
third one,
whenever you're like in a
third.
group, you tell a really good joke. And as soon as everyone's laughing or whenever she walks up to the group, you walk away. You're not being mean. You have to give her time away because what happens is if people, let's say you met me 10 years ago, you see me every day for 10 years, you'll always see me in the category of the first time we met. However, if I disappear for 6 to 8 weeks and then you see me again, you haven't seen me in about 6 weeks, you'll recategorize me because I haven't seen you in a while. Which category are you in? So it's just the way we store memories. You'll just look at someone and go, oh, I haven't,
So you're
you know
saying
what?
it resets her feelings for him and she'll see him
Yeah,
again and she'll go, he's actually pretty attractive. I never realized that.
she might go, you know what? He does belong in the friend zone. Or she might go, oh, he belongs in the
Yeah.
maybe zone. Or,
Yeah.
oh, I am attracted to him. So the
Right.
more you change, like if you go and lose weight and put on some muscle and change your clothes, all of that will affect the recategorization. So the more you change during that time, and she go, he's never around. And you don't, not about being mean. It's not about being tricky. It's just about giving her space. And also, here's the thing. If you spend 6 weeks improving yourself and then she's still not interested, well, you're 6 weeks more improved. Other women will be attracted to you. You'll be surprised what happens.
Yeah, that's right.
That's better
What's the
than proposing.
excellent? What's the next one? What do you have?
Just found out that my wife cheated on me 16 years ago.
16 years ago.
So
Okay.
way back in 2008, I found out. So an old friend of my wife emailed me last night and sent me some screen captures from emails that at the time my wife had a fling with a man while she was dating me long distance. She said she wanted a clear conscience at the time. So she, like this friend decided, oh, I feel guilty that I've known this for so long because I've decided after 16 years to finally tell you. Oh, thank you. That's
Absolutely.
cool.
It's perfect. It's exactly what a
Thank you.
friend should do. Yeah. Good friend.
So you were it's this is interesting because I think the wife's like slept with the dude once while her and this guy were long distance. Long distance is very close to a break.
Hmm.
It's like next door neighbors with being on a break. And it's so strange that how much people get in long distance relationships these days because the statistics it's hard enough to have a relationship. The statistics are so against you if you're in a long distance relationship. Not only are they against you while you're apart, the odds of you breaking up are really high when you get back together because you're so used to a one type of relationship and now suddenly this person's there all the time and you've never had that before. You go, oh,
And
you
yeah,
are
you
who I
don't
thought
really
you
know
were.
the person that much. When they're long distance, you don't really know them.
You
All you're seeing is their highlight reels. You're not seeing what they're really like behind the scenes.
living with someone is so different.
Yeah.
Like living with my wife and my wife for a living with both of us, there are so many things that we do that the other person doesn't like. My wife is really big on leaving the bathroom door open while she's going to the bathroom. It doesn't matter which bathroom in the house it is. Okay. By the front door, in the kids' room, she just always, and I'm talking number ones and number twos, and I cannot wrap my head around it. You know what I like to do is shut the door. I also don't like my kids and my wife will all come talk to me while I'm going to the bathroom. Like, guys, can I please have one time when I'm alone? Don't come in here with a problem or ask me questions while I'm on the toilet, okay? So that's me. We're come from two opposite ends of the world. My wife's like, come on in, everyone, let's have a chat. Let's watch them. You know what I mean? Like, let's watch some TikToks together while I'm going to the bathroom. It is what it is. I have to accept it. She's also someone who, the way she treats the toothpaste is very inappropriate. Squeeze from the middle, leave it open. That's her. I didn't know people did that in real life. I thought that was something they only had on sitcoms to like create
Well, in the
introduce you
old
to
days, we
death.
used to have arguments about how do you fold a map. Come on, honey, look at this. It's not how you fold a map.
Oh my
Why can't
gosh, I
women
can
fold
only
a map?
imagine. Yeah,
What's the
well,
matter with them? They don't know how to fold a map.
you
Um,
know, we have a beach mat that's like that you
16
refold.
years, man. 16 years. That's such a long time ago. First of all, this friend isn't horrible person. Okay, for bringing this up, right? Do we agree on that? This hit friend is not a
Yes.
friend, right?
That's not
There's
cool.
something very, very uncool.
I'm so glad you
So
feel unburdened by ruining my life. Thank you for
yeah,
your how I'm glad you feel
and
better.
you know what? You carried this burden with you for 16 years. Why didn't you carry it to your grave? You know, really would have been a lot better. Also, just the idea of 16 years ago on it, I don't think it's a big deal. Look, 16 years have gone by. The guy, let's assume he's been a loyal, loving person. I don't see a
Well,
problem with it. I don't see any problem
eh,
with it.
the question is if this is a pattern. Once a cheater,
Right.
always a cheater, so I don't know.
Well,
So
it doesn't. It was distance relationship, like you said. What was the state of the relationship? Sometimes people will look for someone to cheat with, you know, complex in order to.
yeah, I don't know.
For
It's just a complex one. There's no good answer to this. It's just like
all right. So here's a question for you. So, um, my wife, it's a man, and my wife, they're in the mid late 20s. Gets home from work about 2 hours before I do, and she prefers to be topless. Okay, so she kind of, you know, lets everything out when she does chores or is sitting on the couch. But as soon as I get home, then what she does, she goes straight in the bedroom and she puts a shirt on. And it didn't bother me at first. I didn't even think about it. But now it seems sort of deliberate. It's sort of making me feel like I'm a predator somehow, like I'm going to lose control or something if she's all natural. So
wait,
when she,
his wife?
yeah, so she'll be topless, but when he gets home, she puts her shirt on like right away. And he's going, I told her it bothers me when she does this. It makes me feel like a creep and that she should feel comfortable being naked around me. She said that she didn't think of me as a creep, but she feels exposed with eyes on her and she only likes to do that when she's alone. Okay. Because she has eyes on her all day long at the office and she just wants to be home and decompress and not think about, you know, somebody looking at her. So that's
Uh
an odd one. I don't think we've ever had a question like this.
no, I think they should get divorced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're supposed to take pleasure in your wife's breast. It's even in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
I think
It
that's the
says that in
exact
the
quote.
Bible. It
And it's
says,
like
it does. It says
it's
that.
your husband should be in a different category than your coworkers.
Yeah.
So if you say, "Oh my gosh, everyone looks at me all day. I don't want my husband looking at me." That's a huge problem. I think that's a huge problem, the way she answered it. I can understand I love to do the laundry topless, but I don't want my husband to look at me. I mean, does she wear a shirt when they sleep together?
Okay. Let's leave it at this. Let's just say that
Okay.
she's topless. He gets home. She puts her shirt on. I can't see if that's what she feels. So what? If she's good every other way and she loves, you know, they have a physical relationship that's good and everything else. This is one of her quirks. Doesn't everyone have quirks? Like, so what? Like, if she likes to have her shirt back on when he gets home, it's her business. I don't see it as his business. I think he's overreacting to this,
Yeah,
assuming everything else is okay.
until the way she described it is I don't want anyone looking at me. And that she's like, you're this whole talk about I feel like a creep. I look you to me, and I'm trying to think about this because I'm trying to look at the little things that are said in between. Your wife should want you to look at her boobs, not other women's boobs, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather my wife look at my bits than other men's bits. So that's the part that's kind of tricky is the way they describe it. Like, oh, I feel like a creep. Like that should be the rule is that like that's the person. This is the one person that you're not a creep for looking at naked. Like that's part of the game. Here's
Maybe
another
she
game.
does feel comfortable being naked, but just not when he gets home. I don't know. It's like, okay, so what? Women, you know, people have their quirks.
Here's another game that we'll play. Here's another game me and my wife play. You might like this one. So sometimes when my wife is in the shower, I'll hide behind the door so I can just see through the crack, naked, and pretend to play with myself, like hunched over like a goblin, like really creepy like. And I'll make like creepy noises until she hears it.
And this is getting to the TMI territory. And now I can't get that out of my head. Ugh.
I'm not actually doing it. I'm just
Right.
pretending.
Okay.
She always starts laughing. She thinks it's really funny.
It
So
is funny.
that's you know what I mean? Like when you're because it
You
would be
gotta have
creepy if
fun. You gotta have fun, you know?
it would because it's something that if I wasn't her husband, it would be very bad. But since I'm her husband, it's okay and it's funny. And I think that's the thing is that they're missing that element is what I mean. Is that like you're not
Yeah. Maybe he
this is the
should say, honey, why don't you just instead of putting a shirt on when I get home, wear that skimpy little bikini that you're too self conscious to wear
I don't
when
want anyone looking
you
at
know,
me.
go to the pool.
I thought I was very clear. I don't want you to look at me when you get home. I mean,
I'm going to
here's
look at you. The question is, what are you going to wear when I'm looking at you? So, do something for me sexy, okay?
why doesn't I mean, here's what he should try and do. Here's a great move. Is that in the garage, he takes off everything downstairs. He comes in like that. He goes, "I wanted you to feel comfortable." And of course, the one time you do that is when her parents will be visiting or
I got my
something.
shirt on because somehow you like having a shirt on. So I thought, well,
Yeah,
you're
I
not
want you to
comfortable
feel
with me.
safe.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
way, no one is looking at you. I just think, yeah,
That's a
I
little
mean,
bit, passive aggressive, wouldn't you say?
well, I mean, maybe he just really loves Donald Duck. It's the classic Donald Duck wears a shirt and no pants. Yeah, I mean, it's if you do again, it's all about if it's meant to be funny and to lighten the mood. That's the purpose here is to break the tension. It's just the way they're describing it sounds like a little bit tricky, but
So here's a question. My wife
okay.
and I have been married for almost a decade, but she rarely initiates intimacy or seems interested in sex. I'm going to
Okay.
stop for a second. Okay, I have tens of thousands of people that have been through my protocols that I've worked with over the years. And of all the questions that I've gotten over the years, the number one question has to do with size for a man, how they could be bigger. The number two question, always, the number two question is about this. It's about how can I get her to initiate? How can I get her more interested?
Wait,
Number two question.
are these the same question? That's what I wanted to ask. To me, there's her initiating and then her saying yes when I initiate. Are those the same thing? I think of those as two different things.
They're completely different. He
Okay.
doesn't say that she turns me down. He
Yeah.
says that she rarely initiates, but he also says she doesn't seem interested in sex. Okay, so I don't know how old they are. It doesn't say.
Yeah, because those are two different problems to me.
But okay, but here's the point. This is the rest of
Right.
it.
Okay.
On weekends, especially long weekends, she will often pleasure herself in the morning when I'm busy taking care of our kids downstairs.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
I,
all
I
right.
love this.
And then at that night, she wants to do it with me. Okay, because she's pleasured herself in the morning, and so she feels more desirous.
She's primed
However,
up.
I can't help but feel insecure because it seems like she only asks after pleasuring herself. I worry that I might not be able to satisfy her and that she needs to pleasure herself to feel desire for me. Even when we have the opportunity to be intimate during the day while the kids are asleep, she relies on porn to get in the mood. And I always make sure to prioritize foreplay and I'm making sure she's really turned on and everything else. I've attempted to discuss it with her, but it's just turned into an argument. I was banished to the couch. Now I'm finding
Well,
it hard to ask for sex because it's constantly on my mind.
so she's told him, here's the things I like. And he goes, how about instead of those, let's do the things I want to do to get you in the
Hmm.
mood.
Hmm. You think
It's
so?
not that, yeah, I mean, it sounds like we were talking about this earlier, right? Like, oh, she likes to play herself and then she wants to play you. Okay, so just let her play herself more, right? Like, just
I'll
prime
tell
the
you what
pump,
I would
whatever.
say. I would say, it's great if she wants to play with herself, and then the next time she does that, maybe I can join you. That'd be fun. I mean, there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with
I can
that.
flip the switches. I can do
Yeah,
the levers.
yeah. I'd like
I
to
can ride the
watch. I'd like to
bicycle.
take some notes.
But the other thing he said, so during the middle of the day while the kids are asleep, their kids must be very young.
Right. They're
She
probably in
can,
their 20s or early 30s.
this is a different problem. She can only get in the mood if she watches porn. That's a little something else. That's a
She
different
has
problem.
fantasies and she's hooked on certain things that are kind of a little bit extreme, and
Yeah,
she's
so
been
that's a
desensitized
little
to
bit
ordinary
worrying. The
sexual
porn thing is
cues.
worrying. The other thing I don't
Yeah.
think is a problem, but if it's derivative of the porn, porn addiction is always a problem. It always
Well,
leads to
well, he
weirdness.
says it is. He is saying it is, and that's basically what's going on.
Yeah, so
That she has to have. Yeah, it's somewhat of an issue.
yeah, I mean, the thing is he either has to decide, okay, let her watch your porn, whatever, or but he's really jealous. Is what he's really saying. How can I compete with her toys? I think this is a common thing. This is a more common question.
How do I compete with the vibe?
Yeah, and you can.
Don't get her a vibe. Get rid of that. Don't have one in the house.
I don't think you can
I know,
just
but
throw it away
it's
when
very
she's not looking.
destructive. It's very disruptive and
But
destructive.
you can get a thing that you put on yourself now that makes you vibrate. You ever tried one of those?
No, I haven't tried any of those.
Yeah, me neither. But I've seen it in the store. I go, nope. I have a thing about electricity and my penis. They
Well, I
don't.
don't want to get accustomed to something that's like super, what they call a super stimulus, something that's too beyond what a physiological real person with fingers and organs can do. I don't want to get into that. Like I'd rather
Huh.
just get used to normal things that make me really excited. And if I have to
Yeah,
use an
we're so
electronic thing,
boring.
that's an escalation that I don't want to get into. Because then an ordinary thing, I wouldn't feel anything. That's my concern. Kind of like if I became an audiophile and I bought $20,000 speakers, then I
Mhm.
would never like anyone else's speakers. I would never like listening to music in the car. I'd never like listening on the computer. I'd have to have $1 zillion headphones. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. So I just get used to shitty sound, and I love hearing shitty sound, and that's kind of for that same
Huh.
reason.
And you
Yeah.
also love shitty sex. Got
No, no, but I
it.
don't like vibes and tools and things like that. Okay, here's another view of this, though, Jonathan. Another view is, what is it the guy's business if she plays with herself or not, right? It's not his business, it's hers. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, once you're married, everything is joined business,
But
isn't
I
it?
never understood this. Why does usually it's a woman telling the man, why are you jacking when you have me? And I never understood that. Like, if he wants to jack, he jacks. Like, what's the big deal?
Oh,
I mean,
my wife and I had this conversation today.
mm,
So this morning we had a really good wild session together, like wild,
mhm,
really got wild. And then
mhm,
this afternoon, I was like working on a project and was going to do a quick break. And she's like, "Do you want me to join you?" I was like, "No, because then it's a whole production.
mhm.
Then I have to take a
Right,
shower, and then it's
right,
sticky." And she was like,
right.
"Well, that's hey, like it just is. I don't want to. If it's us, it's like an hour. If it's me on my own, it's like a quick 10-minute, get it in and out, get it
Well,
done."
that's one reason, but it's different. It's not like you're not getting enough with your spouse. It's just different. And I could see it for many, many years. I never did it at all by myself. And that's usually what I do now. I'm always with her when I do it, if I do it. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
like,
that's
I'm just thinking, like, why don't they just join each other in this activity? Like, why does she have to be by herself? And if she wants to do it by herself, it's her business, really. That's my point. I really don't think it's his business. It really isn't.
well, if she I think maybe the reason he's not invited is because like he's weird about it, he's like intimidated.
Hmm.
So that would
Yeah.
be a reason. And yeah, I
Well,
mean,
because he says, I worry that I might not be able to satisfy her and that she needs to masturbate to feel desire for me. That's a very insecure man
who
talking.
cares if she's satisfied? When did that become a man's job?
Who gives a shit, really?
It's
I have
like,
what I call the rule of one. I say that when a man is in bed with a woman, with a partner, there's only one person. That's just you. You do what you want to do, what feels pleasurable to you. A lot of times it feels pleasurable giving pleasure to someone else. That's why you do it, because
well,
it's pleasurable for you. The rule of
yeah,
one. So
I mean, be
too worried about
responsible
what
for
she
your own
thinks.
orgasms.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what do you care what she thinks? Really? Too many men are worried about what she thinks. I hate that. Oh, it's so many men are they email me about this and about how worried they are about satisfying her. Well, screw that. Just satisfy yourself. Make sure you're really happy. Tell her what you want her to do.
You know
Um,
who makes sure my wife has an orgasm? My wife.
she does. Yeah, I would
Of
guess that's
course.
right. That's her job. Yeah.
Because, well, it's the only way you know is if she tells you, right? It's like it's undetectable. So all of this other stuff that like we get so caught up in, oh, I need to make her have this many orgasms, this and that.
Yeah.
Sometimes women
That's
don't want
terrible.
one. Sometimes they just want some part of it, and that's fine.
And I
Like,
tell you one thing, they never want pressure to have one. They never want pressure to perform or to feel like, oh,
okay, did you finish
she
yet?
was so
Did you
turned
finish yet?
on. Because
Nothing makes you stop
yeah.
like getting asked that over and over again. Did
Are
you
we
finish
done?
yet?
Are you
Did you
done?
finish it? Did it
Yeah.
finish yet? Did you finish? Yeah. Is this the biggest one you've ever had?
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's not as bad. Is it in yet? That's even worse.
Where's the rest? Or where's the put the rest of it in. That's the word.
I
It's
don't
like the
feel
one where you're
anything.
short and the girl's like, "Can you stand up?" You go, "I am standing."
I don't feel anything. Yeah. So again, my thought is it's not his business. She really should not worry about what she thinks or what she wants. And if she gets in the mood, great. She should do it as much as possible and get in the mood as much as possible. But he should join her, try to join her, and he can do it to himself. She can do it to herself. They can take turns helping each other. It'd be fun. So that's all. Now on this subject, I had a question
Okay.
from somebody, Matt, who has more pleasure from sex, the man or the woman? I don't know
Women.
why he asked. Women do
Yeah.
because they can have multiples, and men are generally one and done. Is that why?
Here's what I know. So for a year, I only dated lesbians, and I would hang out with lesbians. I'd go to lesbian only
Obviously, they
clubs.
weren't completely lesbians. They were.
Well,
They
I
didn't
used
mind a
to
little side
say,
action.
listen, if you know anyone who's like upset that their daughter's a lesbian, I can cure it. Hilarious stuff.
Try me.
So
Try me.
I used to say all sorts of stuff like, "Oh," they go like, "I'm a lesbian." I'm like, "That's just a political opinion. That's like being a
It's
Democrat
an
or
opinion.
Republican.
It's an
That's just a
opinion.
political. That's just like a social construct." So
That's how you felt until you met me.
yeah, I said, "Listen, I get it. You've never
Sure, they all
met a
hear
man
that.
you want to sleep with until now. That's different." But
Yeah.
the amount that women were getting wild with each other was so high because there's no risk of pregnancy, there's no risk of STDs, and I'm talking like way, way. And I think maybe the man community is the same way, just super high levels of promiscuity, just because of it is what it is. People have this assumption that men like sex and women don't. I just found I was like, oh my gosh, women like it way more than men.
Historically, over like 300 or 400 years in Western civilization, there was always the belief that women had stronger sex drive than men up until about the last 100 years. That women actually had a much stronger drive. And as a result, women had to be kept indoors, they had to be covered up, they had to be restrained, restricted, controlled, because otherwise they were going to go crazy. And there's still a
Like a
lot of
werewolf?
societies still believe that. Well,
When you
we
say
can hope.
restrained, do you mean like tied up like a werewolf? Like on once a month you tie it up
Well,
so it
made
doesn't
to
kill
not go
everyone?
outside with other men around when, the husband's not around. That's what I mean.
I mean,
They're libertine.
yeah, I
So,
think that
yeah, but
there's some
I think it
truth to
depends on
that.
the passage of life that they're in. Women can be more desirous of sex when they're really young, but as they get older, perimenopause, which is when their periods start becoming irregular prior to them stopping altogether, which is menopause, they can sometimes have a lower drive than normal, or their normal becomes low or non-existent. Some women have a higher drive at that point, but most women have a lower drive and sometimes even a non-existent drive.
Let me ask you
And
a question. So women's sex drives go up and down over their lifetimes. Does men or are men pretty consistent?
no, men are pretty consistent unless they have a physical problem and they're on
I always
medications like
I always think about
antidepressants. Yeah.
that time when I'm finally no longer horny and I can just
I
like
know you like
really
that.
focus.
I just love being horny. I love having a strong sex drive. I'm in the midst of writing a book about using your sex drive as a man to get everything that you want in life and how to build and have a very high libido all the time. And also
Yeah.
how to have hours of orgasmic sex every day.
Well,
It
yeah.
all
See,
goes
that's the thing
together.
is I'd rather spend those hours like inventing or being creative or writing poetry. I don't know. I mean, I
I think
imagine
2 hours a day in sex is about right. 2 hours a day, 1 hour at night, 1 hour in the morning with
you're
your
a
partner
maniac. Oh, it's too
is a good
much.
one.
Even now, that's more than I want. No, thank you. I've got one. Speaking of being older, I've got this one's pretty interesting. I'm 60. My children are in their early 30s, and they are constantly tanking my relationship. I'm with a new woman. They treat her really bad, and they say, "Listen,
Wow.
mom is single, so you should be single forever too." What
Wow.
do I do? And
Wow.
the mom,
What's
by the
wrong
way,
with just sitting down and telling them and saying, you know what, dad's going to be, you know, living a life and having a romantic life with other women and get used to it. I don't want to hear another word about it. You should be happy that your dad is happy.
yeah, this whole thing of and the mom cheated on him. That's why they got divorced.
Hmm.
The mom was bad to
Hmm.
him, and
Hmm.
these kids are in their 30s. This happened. So this happened. My parents got divorced. My parents were in their 60s as well, or whatever. And my
Yeah.
dad was like dating or whatever. I was like, what are you dating? Like teenagers, 20s. He's like, what? Are you crazy? I would never date someone younger than my kids. I was like, what? Really?
Why not? Why not?
I was like, because my wife has friends. It might be like a good fit. Like that's how I don't. That's how I
Yeah.
feel.
Me too.
My mom was like, when they got divorced,
Women
my
do
mom,
not feel that way, by the way. Women do not feel
no,
that
she
way.
was like, I never want to date again. That's
And
what my mom
also,
said.
they'll be like, yeah, I could see that. And also, they say, you should be dating someone his own age. What's he doing with a 20-year-old? That's ridiculous. He's old enough to be your grandfather. That's
So
terrible.
what?
That's ridiculous. And next time I'm thinking, well, the guy's pretty smart,
What every guy, here's the secret. That's what every guy
Yeah.
wants, and that's the
So
thing. It's
women are
just
secretly afraid when they get older. They're secretly afraid of being dropped by their man, who's then going to get together with a 20-year-old instead of a 60 or 70-year-old wife. That's what they're secretly afraid of. That's why they disapprove so much of these relationships. I know there's a name for it, but what do they
May
call them?
December.
May December. That's why women hate it so much because they feel threatened personally by it. That could
Yeah,
happen.
that's
to
why
them.
they call it cradle robbing. Like women call it a different name.
Much different.
But when it's an older woman and a younger man, everyone's like, "That's so amazing. That's so great."
Mm-hmm.
Like the French president's wife is like 150 years old or something. Everyone's like, "Wow, that's so cool."
Yeah.
There's what like he loves a
The
woman
other
who's so
way,
much
oh,
older.
what a creepy man. Yeah, if it goes the other way, oh, what a creep that guy is.
Yeah. How about what that
Get
grandma do? Rob the cradle? So
yeah. Oh my gosh.
you know, Yeah, a lot of this is one of the things that makes me sad. A lot of women in their 30s are like, why do men my age want younger women? Don't they realize I know
Hmm.
what I want? And it's like, I won't
Hmm.
put up with their BS. It's like, those are the reasons no one wants you. Here's, and this has always been true. When I was a freshman at high school, you know who the seniors dated? Freshman women. When I was a freshman in college, you know who the
Hmm.
seniors dated? Freshman women. That's the way
Yeah.
it's always been.
Men are always attracted to young women, and young women are attracted to older men. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. And so even under microcosm, it's always been that way. This idea that, and the thing is, all these women in their 20s date men in their 30s, and they get 30, and then the men don't want to date them. It's like, yeah, but when you were in your
Yeah.
20s, you dated men in their 30s. That's the
That's what's
thing.
so hard for women now because they think that they're just so popular and so amazing and so doted on and wanted by men. But when they hit their 30s, it all just dries up. That's what they
Yeah,
find. And then they may want, oh, I think I'd like to settle down and have kids now. They look around and either all the men are married or those men are now divorced and they have kids and they don't want more kids and they don't want to date a woman that wants kids. They want to date someone who's younger who, so it's a real
yeah,
issue women have to be more cognizant of that they're going to be,
yeah. It
in
stinks.
their 30s, it's going to be a whole different game.
Yeah, it's just like you get surprised when you realize that men don't care about how much money you make. They don't care about your career or your aspirations. Those just aren't the way we're built. So it's just like it just feels bad, but it's happening to so many women. There's all these women in their 30s who are going to be single forever now because the time is turned
Yeah.
against them
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
way the numbers are working out.
Well, we have come to the end of our time together. So if you could please subscribe, like this episode. You're welcome to send a comment to matt@getrapidhelp.com. If you want to email me, matt@getrapidhelp.com. We'll answer your question next time. Every Wednesday, make sure that if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell icon, subscribe. It really helps to subscribe and like this episode. And we will see you next week.
Bye, everyone.